Have you ever wondered what the science is behind giving your child music lessons at such a young age? Or have you ever heard of the rumor that giving a child music lessons improves their ability to do well in school and other aspects in life? Well, I'm here to tell you and give you the information behind music and the brain, the connection between it. So, in a study done in 2006, Dr. Laurel Trainer and her group of researchers took a group of 4 to 6 year old children and divided them in two. The first group, they gave the children music lessons for a year outside of school, and the second group received no music lessons outside of school. So when the year ended, the group of researchers took these two children and tested them. The first group that did receive music lessons, they found matured more. They responded more maturely to musical tones. They also had improved. They had advancements in their general memory skills, which means it also improved their literacy, verbal memory, mathematics, and their IQ. The second group did not receive any of these advancements, though. As a music teacher myself, and having worked with young children, I've seen the development and how their minds grasp musical concepts very easily at such a young age. I studied how the minds of children grow through the help of learning the language of music. It's very fascinating. With a study such as this that Dr. Laurel Trainer has shown us, it is easy to find the positive aspects of musical training. So when children receive musical training, their minds and memory are more developed and prepared for other challenges ahead. So we will start off by talking about the music and the brain in general. Then we will go in depth of how music stimulates and engages the brain. Next, we will talk about how it is crucial for a young mind to learn music early on. And then we'll touch a little bit on the Mozart effect. So, let's get started with the brain. When a child is musically trained at a young age, certain parts of their brain grow strong and improve greatly. It is commonly thought that those who are musically or artistically inclined are thought to be right-brained, and those who are do well with mathematics, neurological, and analytical thinking are said to be left-brained. But music, however, is the great equalizer. It requires equal use of both hemispheres of the brain. Each side of the human's brain looks identical, but deep within the workings of it, they're completely different. The left hemisphere deals with logic and reasoning, analytical thinking, language, and mathematics, while the right hemisphere controls imagination, creativity, emotion, and dimension. So, one may ask how the left hemisphere can contribute to the right hemisphere when producing music. So when the mind is engaged in learning a new concept or the new signs and different language of music, it is using the left part of the brain to read and interpret the new incoming information it is learning. So to be able to read the tablature, the left brain must interpret and reason out the notes and symbols so that the body can actually play the instrument. So while the left brain looks like it's doing most of the work, the right brain has a lot on its plate as well. So, Jack H. David Jr. of the Austin Community College states that neither cerebral hemisphere is totally dominant for music, but rather both hemispheres are involved. The right hemisphere controls the dynamics of music, timbre, intonation, and expression of emotion. From an audience's ear, they hear the right side of the brain being played. The pitch changes, patterns, overall quality of sound and emotion integrated in the music are important aspects of which the right side controls. It helps the audience feel the music that's being played. So how does the music engage and stimulate the whole brain? So when an audience goes to hear a symphony play or hear a piano performance, they simply enjoy the experience. That is, if they're not a musician. See, the audience's right side of the brain that aren't musicians is in dominance when they are just simply listening to music as well. But musicians' brain functions differently when they listen to music. They have more knowledge of what goes on and into making the performance. So they analyze and approach music more intellectually. They actually use their left brain to a great extent when they listen to music. When a person is receiving training on an instrument, it takes almost every area of their brain to engage and learn it. The visual cortex reads the music, The sensory cortex sends messages to the brain when keys are hit or strings are plucked. And the cerebellum tracks the beat of music, and the hippocampus stores the long-term memories and connects them to familiar songs that are heard. So William J. Cromie from the Harvard University Gazette states in an experiment that was done and says, increased flow of blood and oxygen to the brain, to different areas of the brain, can be seen as people play music, which is very interesting. These parts of the brain are more exercised and are developed more by people who have learned an instrument. The two sides of the brain have learned to work together and produce something very beautiful and captivating. With this information, it is easy to see the greater advancement in learning new things, especially when a child learns an instrument. So now let's talk about music and the mind of the young child. So when a child is exposed at a young age to the whole new world of music, it stimulates their brain in ways that help it receive new information, of other new information that it can learn. According to the Children's Music Workshop, there have been recent studies that have indicated that musical training physically develops the left side of the brain that's involved in handling language. So in this, it can wire circuits in the brain in some ways, connecting things together. So when music is heard, is learned, and then practiced, it can help parts of the brain when it learns new other things, such as language. But what about the other way around? If enhancement of language is done, it can actually advance the parts of the brain that help process music as well. Either way, it goes hand in hand. Becoming more knowledgeable in music can help children in mathematics, too. I have learned from experience. In music tablature, the notes receive counts as do rests. Some of these notes can have more than one count, or sometimes one count can have more notes in it. When learning this new information, and then integrating it into playing music, it can be very challenging. But when these skills are learned and mastered, they can help with mathematical studies such as decimals, fractions, and percents. The aspect of physically playing an instrument challenges the mind to work with both sides of the brain to accomplish one task, thus increasing spatial temporal reasoning. So, the Mozart effect. How does this have an effect on the brain? We've all heard of Mozart and his great symphonies and sonatas and his amazing talent to compose. Mozart is probably one of the most well-known piano prodigies known to man. His ability to sight read and compose music at such a young age is almost supernatural. Mozart's music has become a subject of scientific research to both scientists and psychologists because of the great effect it has on the brain. The well-known Mozart effect has been proven to improve cognitive activity such as spatial temporal reasoning and memory. In 1993, researchers Gordon Shaw, Francis Roscher, and Catherine Kai conducted an experiment with six students split into three groups. The first group listened to a sonata by Mozart, one a relaxation tape, and the last group just sat in silence for 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes were over, this group took the tests, they took these three groups and gave them a test. They were to mentally unfold a piece of paper that had been cut, and then pick which piece it was from a tangible selection. The students who listened to Mozart scored up to 8 points higher compared to the other two groups. So how does Mozart's music improve the brain's capacity in spatial temporal reasoning skills while other composers don't? Neurologist John Hughes from the University of Illinois Medical Center in Chicago goes through hundreds of compositions of music and concluded that music sequences that regularly repeat every 20 to 30 seconds, just as Mozart's compositions do, may trigger the strongest response in the brain. The central nervous system, such as the onset of sleep, and brainwave patterns also occur in 20 to 30 second cycles. So Mozart's music was able to activate the areas of the brain that also rule vision, fine motor coordination, which deal greatly with spatial temporal reasoning. Very interesting that Mozart's compositions and the brain are in sync. So, to conclude, there is said to be a window of opportunity in children's ages 3 to 9 for growth in musical insight. There are many benefits for giving a child music lessons early, some of which will benefit them later on. James W. Bastian, author of How to Teach Piano Successfully, states that the first 5 years are the most important years for intellectual development. The knowledge learned will transcend musical facts and may carry over into other learning experiences. And when children are young, they learn new information more acceptingly than adults. Everything they are learning in the world is new. So music is one of the very few activities that stimulates and activates almost the entire brain to accomplish one task. Learning an instrument helps children in their school subjects, and they become more well-rounded as a result. Whether it be listening or better learning an instrument, music should somehow be incorporated into a person's life. Music will help the person as a whole and put them in a happier state.